Alex Roberts had always been surrounded by luxury. Growing up as the son of Mr. James Roberts, a wealthy industrialist, he never knew what it meant to struggle. Everything was handed to him: money, opportunities, even connections to powerful people. But instead of appreciating these gifts, Alex squandered them. While other young men from similar backgrounds were attending prestigious business schools, learning the intricacies of running a company, and preparing to take over their family legacies, Alex couldn't be bothered. Business meetings and lectures bored him. Instead, he found excitement in the dimly lit back rooms of gambling dens, where the stakes were high, and the risks were even higher. His nights were spent recklessly betting large sums of money on card games, roulette wheels, and dice rolls. The thrill of the gamble consumed him, and with each win, he became more addicted. But the losses, which were more frequent, only pushed him deeper into the abyss. James Roberts, Alex's father, had watched helplessly as his son spiraled out of control. He had tried everything to reach Alex, hoping to guide him back onto the right path. They had countless arguments, long talks, and even silent moments of tension. But nothing seemed to work. The more James tried to help, the more Alex resisted. The once promising heir to Roberts Enterprises was now known more for his reckless behavior than for his potential. To Alex, the family business felt like a burden, something that would trap him in a world of responsibility he wasn't ready for. He preferred the rush of the gamble to the dull predictability of corporate life, and each argument with his father only drove him further away from the man he was supposed to become. James Roberts had always believed that one day, his son would step up and embrace his responsibilities. As the head of Roberts Enterprises, he had built a successful company from the ground up, and he had hoped to pass it on to his only son, Alex. But as the years went by, James's hope began to fade. Instead of seeing his son mature, he watched as Alex continued to waste his life away in casinos and parties. James had worked too hard to see everything fall apart because of Alex's recklessness. Handing over the reins to someone who couldn't even manage his own life seemed like a recipe for disaster. One night, after yet another heated argument, Alex found himself desperate for cash. His latest gambling spree had ended in a massive loss, and he needed money fast. In his desperation, he did something unthinkable. He stole the deed to his father's favorite mansion, the place that held so many family memories, and gambled it away. The thrill of the gamble had clouded his judgment, and he didn't fully comprehend the consequences until it was too late. When James found out what his son had done, the weight of it all became too much for his heart. The betrayal, the stress, and the disappointment combined into a devastating blow. He collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. The doctors tried to save him, but it was too late. James Roberts passed away, leaving behind a shattered family and a legacy hanging in the balance. Margaret Roberts had always been the pillar of strength in the Roberts household, quietly supporting her husband and son from behind the scenes. But when James died, her world crumbled. The love of her life, her partner in everything, was gone. And worse, his death had been triggered by their son's reckless actions. The grief was overwhelming, and Margaret was left to pick up the pieces of a shattered family. But amidst her pain, one thing was clear: she needed to honor her late husband's final wish. Before James had passed, he had made her promise one thing: not to let Alex take over the company until he truly changed. James had seen the potential in his son, but he had also seen the dangers of letting him take control too soon. With a heavy heart, Margaret made the decision to take control of Roberts Enterprises herself. She had always been involved in the business, but now she had to take on the full weight of running it. It wasn't easy, especially with the grief still fresh, but she knew she had to protect the company that James had built. She couldn't let Alex's reckless behavior destroy everything they had worked for. Margaret hoped that one day, her son would change, that he would rise to the occasion and become the man his father had always believed he could be. But until that day came, she would do whatever it took to keep the company, and their family legacy, intact. After his father's death, Alex found himself drowning in a sea of guilt and resentment. The weight of his actions, knowing that his father's death had been triggered by his recklessness, was almost unbearable. He tried to numb the pain the only way he knew how, by lashing out. He couldn't believe that his mother, of all people, wouldn't let him take over the company. In his mind, stepping up as the CEO was the least he could do to make up for everything that had happened. He convinced himself that he had changed, that he was ready to take on the responsibility. But no matter how much he tried to persuade his mother, Margaret wouldn't budge. She had seen through his facade too many times before and wasn't willing to risk the company on his empty promises. Despite his resentment, Alex couldn't ignore the fact that his mother was right. Deep down, he knew he hadn't truly changed, and the guilt of his father's death weighed heavily on him. But things took a surprising turn when Amira entered the picture. Amira had been with Roberts Enterprises for years, working as the company's accountant. She was known for her intelligence, her work ethic, and her unwavering professionalism. One day, she visited Margaret at home to discuss the company's finances, and that was when Alex first laid eyes on her. Something about her captivated him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something other than the emptiness that had consumed him since his father's death. Amira's presence sparked something in Alex, a desire to be better, to be worthy of her attention. Little did he know, this encounter would be the catalyst for the changes that were about to unfold in his life. Alex couldn't get Amira out of his mind. She was different from any other woman he had met. Her beauty had caught his attention immediately, but it was her grace, confidence, and intelligence that truly fascinated him. He had grown so used to shallow connections and fleeting thrills, but with Amira, things felt different. She exuded an aura of self-assurance, the kind that made people around her take notice. Alex wasn't just captivated by her appearance, he was drawn to the way she moved through life, with purpose and elegance. For the first time in years, Alex felt something deeper than the empty rush of gambling or the superficial excitement of his reckless lifestyle. He wanted to see her again, to be near her. Realizing that Amira was closely involved in the company, Alex came up with a plan. If he wanted to spend more time with her, he would have to work at Roberts Enterprises. But he knew it wouldn't be easy. Approaching his mother, Alex asked for a job, not as CEO, but as a regular employee. Margaret was taken aback by his request. She had seen too many empty promises from her son to be easily convinced that this was a genuine change. Why now? Why the sudden interest in the company? Her skepticism was clear, but after some thought, she decided to give him a chance. She placed him in a low-level position, where she could keep a close eye on him. Alex, determined to prove himself, accepted the challenge. Starting out in the company wasn't easy for Alex. He had spent years avoiding responsibility, living a life of excess, and now, he was thrust into a world of routine and discipline. The tasks assigned to him were menial, far from the glamorous life he was used to. There were no shortcuts, no quick wins, just the daily grind of work that required patience and focus. Alex found it difficult to adjust to this new reality. The long hours and monotonous tasks often made him question why he was doing this. But every time he crossed paths with Amira, it reignited his motivation. She was like a beacon of light in an otherwise dull and frustrating environment. He started volunteering for tasks that required collaboration with the accounting department, where Amira worked. Late nights at the office became his new normal, as he found excuses to stay behind and work on projects she was involved in. Slowly, his persistence began to pay off. Amira, who had initially seen him as the spoiled son of the company's late founder, started noticing something different in him. He wasn't the same man who had once been the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons. Instead of seeing a reckless playboy, she saw a man who was making a genuine effort to change. The small gestures Alex made didn't go unnoticed: his willingness to take on tasks others avoided, his newfound interest in the business, and his dedication to learning the ropes. Amira began to see him in a new light, and her initial skepticism faded. She started to believe that maybe, just maybe, Alex was more than the sum of his past mistakes. Their connection grew stronger over time, as they began spending more moments together, both in and outside the office. What started as brief exchanges in the hallways evolved into lunches at nearby cafes, where they shared stories about their lives. Alex found comfort in these conversations, opening up to Amira in ways he hadn't with anyone else. Their talks were not just about work. They discussed their dreams, fears, and the things that mattered most to them. Amira, who had always been focused on her career, found herself drawn to Alex's vulnerability. She was intrigued by the glimpses of sincerity that peeked through his guarded exterior. It was clear that Alex was trying to make a real change, and she admired his determination to rebuild his life. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Alex realized that something fundamental within him had shifted. He no longer felt the pull of the gambling dens that once consumed him. Instead, he found himself looking forward to each day at the office, to the challenges and learning experiences it brought. His nights, once filled with reckless behavior, were now spent poring over business reports and learning the intricacies of the company. Alex wasn't just doing this for himself, he was doing it for Amira. Her belief in him was like a lifeline that kept him grounded, helping him rise above the darkness he had been trapped in for so long. He wanted to be a man worthy of her love and respect. One evening, after months of spending time together, Alex found himself walking with Amira under the city lights. The world around them seemed to fade away as they talked about everything and nothing. There was a warmth in the air, a sense of closeness that neither of them could ignore. Alex felt his heart pounding in his chest as he turned to her and confessed his feelings. It wasn't easy for him to be vulnerable, but with Amira, it felt right. He told her how much she had changed his life, how her belief in him had given him the strength to transform. Amira hesitated for a moment, knowing the man he had once been, but she also saw the man standing before her now. She had witnessed his growth and maturity, and she couldn't deny the feelings she had developed for him. Taking a deep breath, she accepted his love, and they became a couple. As Alex continued to change, his transformation didn't go unnoticed by his mother, Margaret. She had watched her son closely over the past few months, observing his dedication to the company and his growing relationship with Amira. This wasn't the same Alex who had once gambled away everything without a second thought. Margaret could see the difference in him, not just in his actions, but in the way he carried himself. There was a newfound sense of responsibility and purpose in his demeanor. He no longer seemed driven by the desire for power or control over the company. Instead, his focus had shifted to building a future with Amira, one that was rooted in love, trust, and hard work. Margaret knew that change couldn't happen overnight, but she also recognized the genuine effort Alex was putting in. After months of observation, she decided it was time to have a serious conversation with him. One afternoon, Margaret called Alex into her office. The past months had been difficult for her, running the company single-handedly while grieving the loss of her husband. She had carried the weight of the family legacy on her shoulders, determined to protect what James had built. But as she sat across from her son, she realized that she couldn't do it alone forever. The company needed someone who could carry on James's vision, someone who had the passion and integrity to lead it into the future. Margaret had been waiting for the right moment, and now, as she looked into Alex's eyes, she knew it had finally come. With a deep breath, she handed him the keys to the company, a gesture that symbolized not just her trust but also her belief in his transformation. Alex was stunned by his mother's decision. For so long, he had thought about becoming CEO as a distant dream, something he wasn't sure he deserved anymore. His focus had shifted to building a life with Amira, and he had stopped obsessing over the company's leadership. But now, standing in his mother's office with the keys in his hand, Alex realized just how far he had come. He had grown into the man his father had always hoped he would be. Overwhelmed with emotion, he thanked his mother, vowing to honor his father's memory by leading the company with integrity, responsibility, and love. The weight of the legacy now rested on his shoulders, but Alex was ready to carry it, not just for himself but for his family and the future they would build together. With Amira by his side, Alex stepped into his new role as CEO of Roberts Enterprises. The transition wasn't easy, but he embraced the challenges with a newfound sense of purpose. Together, they worked hard to ensure the company's continued success, making decisions that would shape its future for years to come. The business flourished under Alex's leadership, but more importantly, Alex had found a purpose that went beyond wealth and power. He had discovered the value of love, responsibility, and dedication, and these values guided every decision he made as CEO. As he looked toward the future, Alex knew that he owed his transformation to the people who had believed in him, his mother, who had never given up on him, and Amira, whose love had changed everything. For that, he would always be grateful.